Hi, welcome back to Imprint. It's Marcus Timpson at FuturePrint. Delighted to be joined by Clive Ayling, who is the Managing Director of Meteor Inkjet, one of our FuturePrint partners. Hi Clive, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you, Marcus.
It's been a while, hasn't it, since we've been back at an event, or an exhibition, or a trade show, whatever you want to call it, and particularly Imprint. And I know Meteor's always been an advocate of imprint and really sort of integrated into the whole kind of industrial inkjet process, I suppose, in terms of innovation. We've not had events for a couple of years, so what is it you're here doing and how's things going and what are you seeing and what are you hearing in regards to the show?
Yeah, okay. No, yeah, we're big fans of imprint.
Yeah.
In the early days, it was almost the only show we would go to.
Yeah.
But it's still very valuable to us because it's the place where industrial ink printing is done or discussed, and that's what Meteor is targeted at more than anything else. I mean, don't be wrong, we have hundreds of customers and some of them are doing very esoteric stuff, which is not industrial, or very traditional kind of textile and so on. But industrial is a kind of an exciting place to play, and it's where what will become ordinary one day is first started.
Yes.
So, yeah, this particular show, I did a talk yesterday about packaging printing, corrugated printing, which has its own shows actually. But in the early days of it is effectively an industrial machine until it has enough momentum to say, oh, it's not industrial now, it's actually its own show, its own industry. So yeah, it's been cool. It's been cool to be back.
Yeah.
A lot of customers come to see us here, so it's efficient in that sense. People come around and say, this is what we've been doing the last couple of years. We weren't able, we're getting our heads out of pandemic now, so beginning to think about the next year or the next step. What do you know about this? Or just asking the question.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's something you can do at an event and achieve a lot in an event, which is much harder, isn't it, virtually or by phone or whatever.
Yeah, if you write an email to someone, then you can't open so easily general discussion. If you phone up someone, or even if you have a Zoom or a Teams, there tends to be an agenda, and you work your way through the agenda. At the end of the agenda, you have a little pleasantry, and then you call off. But if you're at a face-to-face, you tend to float more ideas. You tend to just feel more relaxed about sharing what you might be doing and expecting a kind of response that you can pick up from the body language. Is Marcus enjoying this conversation? Is it something he wants to pursue? Shall I continue with it? And that helps you find the new business opportunity where you can both benefit from, which neither of you beforehand agendaed.
No, that's right. And you can't build rapport. I think you've said in the past to me, the one thing that you really value from events is that serendipity moment, where you bump into someone or you get an idea, and that really is sort of valuable. But it's hard you can't plan for it almost.
Or people set aside their travel time with the intention of making use of it to push beyond the normal very often. If they wanted to know what is the correct voltage to use for this device, they would email. So they don't come to the show with that kind of question. No. They've got in their head with, I've spent the last 4 months worrying about which voltage to use and where am I going to get hold of this. But for this show, I'm going to open my mind and think about next year, or blue sky, or how I'd really like a machine that would be twice as fast, or something. And they come with that openness to explore a new business opportunity rather than just detailing the existing one.
Yeah, exactly. With Meteor Inkjet, just obviously when you're developing an industrial inkjet machine or solution for any kind of marketplace, there's a huge amount of data that needs to be processed, doesn't there? And software and electronics have to play an integral role in the whole process. That's a little around, focused on what Meteor provide, isn't it? You work with a lot of people in the chain.
Yes. Yeah, no, collaborations can sort out most things. And the vast amounts of data that has to be pumped around, you can simply describe it. You can sort of come up with an interface and say, I'm doing a book printer. it's going to be yay wide, yay resolution, yay colors. How do I do that, Meteor? And Meteor will say, oh, you need bang, this. We've seen it before here, and they use this type of equipment. And a lot of the time, that's absolutely fine. What's happened in the last, because of the pressure of this quantity and then the challenge, is that hybrid software group, which is what Meteor is part of, has been slowly, if you like, grabbing hold of the different parallel companies involved in the sharing of the data through the system, so that we can look at how we can make those interfaces a little bit faster and smoother. So I'm not saying it's true in every application that you would need anything like that, but in order to ensure that a job description in a PDF language could flow all the way down to a printed can. I'm looking at a can off camera here, but a printed can or something. Everyone's different. In the best and smoothest way, without any kind of unexpected delay when some incorrect file passes down. It helps to have them all from one supplier, perhaps even with a single integrated industrial DFE, where all of these things have been tested out beforehand.
Yeah.
Again, I try and be very frank and honest in this. There are always ways of doing it without that. There's always a way of just having an interface and a spec but the world is moving towards these challenges.
Yeah.
Partly because this is what digital does well, isn't it? Throwing data around, it's not free, but it is a great way of creating value.
Yeah.
And the world is trying to move more data than ever before, and looking at the bottlenecks and the issues that would come up with doing it. It sometimes takes a group.
Yeah. A group of different providers and solution providers and technology owners and so on.
Yeah, and the more you've done that before, the more you're able to integrate it and test it. We're at this show, we're demonstrating something called Smart DFE, which runs that kind of online ripping and a workflow from image manipulation, the front end all the way, and job creation and definition and QR codes and fonts and the rest of it, all the way down to spitting out onto print heads. And
that was done in collaboration with Clever Graphics Software, was it? The Smart DFE?
Well, it was a group product. So it contains the hybrid software, it contains the color management, it contains the ripping and the screening, it contains the way in which we communicate to the real-time electronics that Meteor does, how we're putting the jobs through and all of this is not as simple as it sounds. I mean, if you were happy to have a job go through and then pause and think and start up and then do the next one, I mean, it's fine. But if you really want to have a proper throughput and proper continuous printing, then you need to look at these issues about how do you stop data overtaking other data in your workflow, and if something's particularly slow, how do you might get these overtakings, and how do you integrate issues such as the banding protection or the nozzle out issues you might get in Inkjet, which we would hide, perhaps at the right point in the data flow, so that they can be smoothly handled without clogging up or requiring monstrous numbers of computers. You don't want one computer per color plane if you can avoid it. You want one smooth, efficient workflow. That with a sensible software support.
Yeah. And this is the kind of work that goes in the background, isn't it? And it's like people tend to look at machine, but not necessarily factor in the software, electronics, the kind of data that's being handled, the ink that's being used, the curing system, the entirety of the product. So I really appreciate that.
There's more awareness of it than there used to be.
Yeah.
I think in the West, certainly we're a lot more aware of the value of software and software development than we ever used to be. Because yes, although it's invisible and was done in advance, but I think there's an awareness that without it, you lose a lot of usability and a lot of power, and your mechanics just isn't going to produce the throughput that you thought it would or should, or the quality that you want it to, unless someone's thought hard about how you're going to, manipulate and pre-prepare and play with the data.
Okay, excellent. Well, listen, thanks so much for your time. Have a great rest of the show. I don't want to, take you away from your booth for too long. So I appreciate your time.
That's what I'm here for, actually.
It is. Okay, thanks very much. Okay, cheers.